Many trainers are known to specialize in one of the 18 Pokemon types. Last time we took a look at the normal type, where we tried to make a decision on which of them was the toughest, at least in regards to the difficulty of their initial battles. It's been about 4 months since the last episode, so how about we look at normal's polar opposite, which is the ghost type. Welcome to the toughest of the type series. There are 8 trainers to look at today. That's 2 more than last time, so let's get on to it. First, we gotta start by looking at the ghost type itself. Ghost type deals stab super effective damage to Psychic and Ghost itself, making Ghost one of 2 types that deal super effective damage to itself. Ghost is resisted by only Dark, though Steel also resisted Ghost up until Gen 6. Finally, Ghost attacks cannot harm normal types. Defensively, Ghost is weak to itself, as mentioned earlier, but also Dark. Ghost resists Bug and Poison, and is immune to fighting in normal. This is the only occasion where 2 different types are immune to each other. Ghost is also the only type to have 2 immunities. If you were to try to describe Ghost in one word, it would be odd. Ghost is less so used for offense, especially since Dark is super effective against the same 2 types, and more so for defense. Ghost types can learn a variety of moves and TMs. Famously, Ghost types specialize in moves that can mess with the opponent, such as Hypnosis, Destiny Bond, and Will-O-Wisp. Ghost type also has a unique battle mechanic. Starting in Gen 6, Ghost types cannot be trapped and can always run. This means they are immune to the Shadow Tag ability and Mean Look. Finally, let's quickly go over the Ghost type's weird history in Gen 1. In Gen 1, Ghost was mostly the same as it is now. However, the only Ghost types in Gen 1 were the Gengar line, who are also Poison type, changing the Ghost type chart by technicality, but due to a coding error, Ghost wasn't effective against Psychic in Gen 1. Psychic was instead immune to Ghost moves. Not that it would have mattered in Gen 1 anyways. The only Gen 1 Ghost moves were Confuse Ray, which doesn't do damage, Nightshade, which does set damage, and Lick, which has low power. Also, before Gen 4, all Ghost moves were physical. But with all of that explanation, let's introduce the Ghost type specialists. By the way, we're gonna go over the gym leaders first, and then go over the Elite 4 members afterwards. One aspect of difficulty we went over last time was lack of options. With gym leaders, you may not have access to the best counters, but with Elite 4 members, you're gonna have access to the entire decks. For our first specialist, we head to Johto to meet Morty, Ecruteak's human item finder. Fun fact, in the manga, Morty has the power of clairvoyance, likely explaining where his gym title comes from. Morty has the same team in his appearances, so let's meet them. In Gold, Silver, Crystal, and Heart Gold, Soul Silver, he has Ghastly Haunter and 2 Gengar. Well, at least you can't say this isn't a Ghost type team. Morty uses a lot of status condition tactics, focusing a lot on the sleep status. And I'll be honest, that's all I got. For counters, you can catch your own Ghost type, or even have an Umbreon if you want it. Plus, while Morty does have a full Ghost team, his team is also fully Poison type, so Psychic Pokemon can still help if you have one. Now, I'll mention here that we'll be saving team comparisons for the end. Last time I compared teams after going over 2 trainers, but today that'll happen at the end. Sorry Morty, but I'ma just have to move on to the next specialist now. Next up, we're going over to my turf, the Sinnoh region, to meet Fantina, Hearthome's gym leader and contest star. Now, I should make a correction for the gym leader fact video. I said Jasmine was the only gym leader with a nicknamed Pokemon, which is not true. Fantina also has a nicknamed Pokemon, that being Looney the Drifbloom and BDSP contests. I literally took a screenshot of Fantina's contest appearance, but somehow didn't notice that. Anyways, her teams. Fantina will be the 5th or 3rd gym leader depending on the version, being the 5th gym leader in DP and BDSP, and the 3rd gym leader in Platinum. In the non-Platinum version, she has Drifbloom, Gengar, and Mismagius. And in Platinum, she has Duskull, Haunter, and Mismagius. And her Mismagius may be her biggest threat in most versions, especially in Platinum where, as the 3rd gym leader, you have less options. Mismagius has a base stat total of 495, effectively making Fantina the Whitney of Sinnoh. Mismagius also has good coverage with grass, psychic, or fairy moves. But let's go over her DP and BDSP teams, which are currently more known. Her Drifloon can be very annoying with Minimize in DP, and in BDSP her Drifloon has Strength Sap. At the very least, Fantina had enough decency to not have Baton Pass. Her Gengar is probably the easiest as she only has physical attacks. But now, I think we should go over held items. In Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, only Mismagius has a held item, but it's only a Citrus Berry which effectively gives Mismagius more HP. But BDSP did what it does best and gave the gym leaders crazy items. Zoom Lens for Drifblim, giving more accuracy to Will-O-Wisp. Gengar has a Colbur Berry, reducing Dark-type damage for 1 turn. And Mismagius has an Expert Belt, buffing the power of super effective hits. For counters, you have a few options. You could get a Murkrow if you're playing Pearl or Silly Pearl, Houndoom if you're playing BDSP, or Umbreon if you're playing Platinum. Fantina can definitely be tough regardless of what version you're playing. I think our Diamond and Pearl battle is probably the easiest. In Platinum, the base stat 12 Mismagius can be a bigger problem, and in BDSP, all our Pokemon have held items, higher IVs, and EVs. Now we head over to Galar to meet Alistair, Stow-on-Side's favorite Shy Guy. Alistair is a Shield exclusive gym leader of Galar, wearing a mask to hide his face, though he does have a league card where he can see his face. Now let's look at his team. For his one and only gym team, he has Galarian Yamask, Mimikyu, Cursula, and Gigantamax Gengar. His Yamask should be easy enough to deal with. Yamask has a low base stat total, but if you make direct contact, your Pokemon's ability will change. Mimikyu has the, now nerfed, Disguise ability, meaning they can take 1 free hit, only receiving a percentage of damage. Cursula can cause trouble if Patient Power gives a boost, though their weak armor ability may undo some of the boosts they get. Finally is Alistair's ace, Gigantamax Gengar. For 3 turns, Gengar will have boosted HP, and Hex will become G-Max Terror. G-Max Terror will prevent Pokemon hit by it from switching out. And even after Gengar shrinks back down, their moveset is still pretty good. Hypnosis and Hex can cause trouble if you're not prepared. Now, finally, let's go over counters. Thanks to the wild area, you can get some pretty good dark types. In particular, Obstagoon is a great choice for this gym. Being a normal dark type, Obstagoon is immune to ghost moves. Obstagoon can also deal super effective hits to most of Alistair's team. On top of that, Obstagoon learns Obstruct, which can block most of the damage you receive from max moves. There are also plenty of other dark or ghost types you could choose from. Alistair can definitely be a tough opponent. His first 2 Pokemon have abilities that can mess with certain plans. And of course, max moves can always cause trouble if you're not prepared. Finally, for gym leaders, we enter Paldea to meet Rhyme, the rapper of Montenevera. Like I said in my gym leader facts video, I honestly don't know much about the Paldea gym leaders. I mean, one of her gym trainers looks like Moist Critical, so that's neat. Anyways, her team. Her team is Banette, Mimikyu, Houndstone, and Toxtricity. Her Toxtricity is her Terrestrialization Pokemon, turning Toxtricity into a Mono Ghost type who still has Stab Discharge. This team may just seem fine on paper. With Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak, Banette can attack with priority. Mimikyu can set up Light Screen and once again has Disguise. Houndstone can deal powerful blows with his moveset and coverage, and as mentioned, Toxtricity will be Mono Ghost with Stab Discharge. But the thing of note with Rhyme is her battle style. Rhyme is the only trainer here who uses the double battle format. This means you have to battle 2 Pokemon at once, and typically playthrough teams aren't built around double battles too. For counters, you basically have the entire deck at your disposal. Most notably, you want someone who can hit both targets at once. Preferably not a special attacker since Mimikyu has Light Screen, and Light Screen can be removed with Brick Break without Scrappy, though a Pokemon with Infiltrator can help with this. As for her ace Toxtricity, a ground type can still help even if he loses his ground weakness, as this may deter Rhyme from using Discharge on your Pokemon. Rhyme can definitely be an unexpected challenge if you're not prepared. Her team seems well built for the double battle format, so some planning may be needed, assuming you're not over leveled. Now, finally, let's go over the Ghost type Elite Four members, though we may speed through a few of these. Remember that that part of the challenge with gym leaders is lack of options. But with the E4, you'll have access to almost every resource you could need, whether that be Pokemon, good healing items, or even stat boosting items. With Elite 4 members, we start in Kanto, where we meet the very first Ghost-type specialist, the Kanto League's Agatha, arguably the most experienced Ghost trainer. Agatha has quite a bit of lore and theories behind her. It's theorized that the Red and Blue intro is a battle between Agatha and Professor Oak, and this is somewhat confirmed in Pokemon Masters. Agatha's teams have stayed relatively consistent throughout the years. In Gen 1 and 3, she has 2 Gengar, Haunter, Golbat, and Arbok. Let's Go alters this team slightly, swapping out Haunter for Weezing. Looking at these teams, you may notice something right off the bat. Only about half her team is Ghost type, but her entire team is Poison type. Since the Gengar line are the only Gen 1 Ghost types, creativity was needed. Agatha specializes in trying to hinder the opponent with status effects, most notably Confusion, Sleep, and Poison. As for difficulty, well, it's hard to gauge. There's many Psychic types that could sweep her team, even after Gen 1. A Ground type could also sweep most of her team in Gen 1 and Let's Go, though I do think she can cause trouble for the player, particularly thanks to her specialty in status conditions. But her team members aside from Gengar are underwhelming stat-wise. Next we head to Hoenn to meet our next Ghost type Elite 4 member, the Hoenn League's Phoebe, the granddaughter of Mount Pyre. Phoebe is the granddaughter of the lady who gives you the red or blue orb. Phoebe seemed to have grown up in Mount Pyre. This likely explains where her affinity for ghost types comes from. In her appearances in Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and their remakes, she basically has the same team but with minor differences. In the original, she has 2 Dusclops, 2 Banette, and Sableye, and in ORAS she evolved her ace Dusclops into Dusknoir. A lot of her Pokemon focus on hindering the opponent, much like Agatha, with moves like Confuse Ray, Will-O-Wisp, and even Toxic in the remakes. If there's one weakness in Phoebe's initial battles, it's that she doesn't fully utilize the stats of her Pokemon. All of Phoebe's Pokemon are physical attackers. While Shadow Ball was physical in Gen 3, in the remakes Dusclops has to settle for the much weaker Shadow Punch, and Banette still has Shadow Ball despite Shadow Claw being better. Even so, Phoebe can still definitely pose a tough challenge. Her Dusclops and Dusknoir especially are very bulky, and they always have great coverage regardless of the version. Now let's get to Unova to meet the Unova League Chantal, the Ghost-type Ghost Rider. According to sources, Chantal is meant to have a cat theme to her design. If you look at her collar, it looks like the shape of a cat head. But anyways, her teams, where we'll only be looking at normal mode, since challenge mode is an advantage no other trainer here has. In Black and White, she has Cofagrigus, Jellicent, Golurk, and Chandelure, and in the sequel she swaps out Jellicent for Drifblim. Her teams are probably the most strictly offensive of this video. In both teams, the only Pokemon with a stats move is Cofagrigus. Chantal takes from kids who grew up playing Pokemon. Why waste time with non-damage moves when we can just punch things? Her Chandelure especially can be nasty. Chandelure has the highest special attack of any non-legendary in Unova, and I think Chantal is the only E4 here where options should be considered, because you may not have to decide to add a dark type in a Unova team. Not because the Gen 5 dark types are bad or anything, but because many of them like Bisharp and Hydreigon take so long to evolve. Granted, Crocodile can almost certainly sweep with Moxie Boost, but to be fair, Moxie Crocodile can almost certainly sweep the entire game. Finally, let's meet the last Ghost specialist in Alola, Acerola, the Ghost-type Princess. And yes, I do mean Princess. Acerola apparently descends from an ancient royal Alola family, but considering she wears a dress of literal rags, it makes you wonder what Unova's history with Alola is. Anyways, despite being the youngest trainer in this video, Acerola certainly shows why she's an Elite 4 member with her teams. In Sun and Moon, it's Sableye, Drifblim, Dhelmise, Froslass, and Palossand. And in the Ultra game, she swaps out Sableye for Banette, and these teams fully utilize their stats while also having good coverage. Her Drifblim seems ready to baton pass a boost from Ominous Wind, and on top of that, her Palossand has a Z Crystal. So for one turn, she can land a devastatingly powerful Ghost move. Plus, her teams have a great balance of physical and special attackers. Aside from her Sableye/Banette, her Dhelmise knows Slam and Froslass knows Ice Shard. Her teams also have the most diverse dual types of this video. Not many of them help cover the weaknesses of the Ghost type, but they certainly help in the offensive category. Now, finally, with all the Ghost specialists gone over, let's end this video by ranking them all. Between August and September, I ran some polls, asking you guys which specialist was the toughest in their initial battles. We did this in a tournament style to decide how we should rank them, and the result of these polls concluded that Allister is the easiest Ghost type specialist, losing both the main tournament and the losers bracket. Morty was able to get 7th place, coming ahead of Allister, and it's all girl power from here. Phoebe ended up in 6th while Acerola came in 5th. In 4th, we have Rhyme, while Agatha used her experience to come in 3rd. And now for the finals between Sinnoh's Fantina and Unova's Chantal. First, for some backstory on how these polls were going. In the polls Fantina was in, she dominated pretty heavily, having 78% on Phoebe and 73% on Agatha. Chantal was doing similarly well, getting 86% on Acerola and 67% on Rhyme. If you had asked for my prediction, I honestly thought Fantina was gonna take this. Sinnoh is fresher on people's minds thanks to BDSP, and BDSP also gave the gym leaders pretty strong teams. And in my personal experiences, I do tend to have more trouble with Fantina. But back to the polls. You can probably guess where this is going, but Chantal won the finals, making her your guys' pick for the toughest Ghost type specialist. And honestly, taking another look at it, I think I would agree with this. Maybe I would personally move a few things around, but overall this could work as our ranking for the Ghost type specialists. And there you have it, folks. Do you agree with these rankings? Which Ghost type specialist do you think is the toughest? Let me know in the comments below. And I hope you're enjoying this series. I also ran polls asking you guys which types you want to see me cover. Ghost type 1 of course, but with Ghost now covered, the water type is up next. A type with 10 specialists. Have a nice day, you wonderful people.